Okay, welcome to DHCP server. We're going to do Lab1B, which is going to be split up into 3 different sections. So everyone run these 4 servers: DC1, Client 1, Router, and Server 1. Let's just jump straight into this. I've got DC1 running already. Basically what we need to, actually sorry, not this one. We have to run Server 1 because we want to implement a DHCP server on this one. So expand that, and we can just jump out of that for now. We'll go back to it a little bit later on, but we need to change the IP address for this DHCP server. Very important step. So go to Ethernet, change adapter options, right click, properties, and then into Internet Protocol 4. We just have to make sure that these ones are correct. And it looks like we do need to make some changes to this server. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to change that to 10.10.10.11. Subnet mask is the same. And the DNS server is going to be slightly different. Put that over there. Yeah. Sorry, that's the default gateway. Sorry, no, that one should be the same. Actually, no. Should be different. 10.10.10.1, and the DNS server should be different down here. All right, I will remove the alternative DNS server. Okay, just in case we're not a DNS server here. I don't think this DNS service is running in this machine anyway. All right, so that's going to be okay, and then okay again. As I always like to do, configure and verify. So I'm just going to verify those settings really quickly. I'm going to IP config. Yeah, there, look, it's been changed, so that's good. I like to configure everything. I like to check to make sure everything's working fine. Okay, awesome. So now I'm going to go to Hyper-V Manager. I'm going to put this in another network. So at the moment, if we right-click Settings, we've noticed that it is in the Hawthorne network there. I'm going to change that. So this is Server 1, remember? I'm going to change that over to the Sarawak network. We're in a different network now. That's why we changed the IP address. So we'll click on Apply, and then OK, so it's now in the Sarawak. We'll do the same for Windows Client 102, which I haven't run yet. I haven't started this one yet, but I'm going to start there now. I'll start, and I'll connect to it. So we've got DC1, Server 1, Router, Client 101, and Client 102 all running at the same time. I think we're pushing this server a bit, the Hyper-V server a little bit. Should be okay. If you have any issues, maybe you can shut down one of the clients. I'm not sure if we need them at the same time. Remember what our password is, PA55W.RD. Not a very secure password, but that'll do. So while that's running, I'm going to right click Settings and put that in the Sarawak subnet or network. Okay, awesome. So we've got a DHCP lab set up now. We can now jump into it. So what we're going to do is we're going to install a DHCP server. We're going to configure some scopes and options. We'll configure the client, the one that we've just changed now, the 02, to be able to get an IP address, and then we're going to test this configuration, and we'll configure the lease as a reservation. Really handy stuff. These are the things that you'll be doing if you worked in support or installing Windows on-prem networks. So, perfect. Let's jump over back to server 1. All right, I've got so many screens open here. So we go to server 1, and we're going to install Windows DHCP. Just going to click the Start button and then click on Server Manager. This is a really easy setup, actually. Just wait for a bit. Manage, yep. Add roles and features. Next. This is really just a point and click. We can see the IP address has changed there. Make sure that that's configured there. Remember the old one was 172. That has to be correct. It does have a DNS server. Interesting. So it does have one, which means I've got to go back. I have to go back for this one. Ethernet, change adapter options, right click, properties. Oops, wrong one. I have to add an alternative address as itself. So 127.0.0.1 is a loopback. It means that's me, the server that I'm at the moment. So I'm going to leave that there. Close that. That's good. DHCP server. Add features, and we're just going to next it all the way. There's nothing else to see in it. It won't take very long to install, I hope. Okay, so now when that runs, what we're going to do is we're going to set up a scope. And what the scope is when a client logs on for the very first time, it does the DORA, discover, offer, request, and accept, or acknowledge, sorry. Now, once it goes through that process, it will get that IP address, but we're going to configure, well, how many IP addresses will this server give out? Do we have 1,000 computers? Do we have 5? Do we have 20? We can configure the amount of IP address available, the subnet mask, what's excluded, what's the default gateway, etc., etc. And we can also add a DNS name, a domain name too, as well. All right, let's close that. Let's see what the flag wants. It wants us to complete the DHCP configuration. If you get to the stage and it's not happy with this, if it doesn't see this, then you'll have an issue here. So you can you can go and try and find the user account. This is just so this DHCP server is authorized on Active Directory. So I'm going to commit that. You can have DHCP servers on the network that's not authorized by Active Directory, and they will work. This is not a security. This is not going to guarantee you security. It will guarantee that this particular DHCP server is authorized on Active Directory. That's all it's saying. Okay, good. We're done. So let's go over to Tools, DHCP, and let's configure a new scope, and then we'll test this out. This is really easy. It's really easy. The good thing about DHCP server is if you configure it correctly at the beginning, it's easy to configure, and you just forget it, and that's it. All right. So what I've done is I've gone DHCP, the actual computer name, the scope, which is IP version 4. You can do IP version 6 too. Although with IP version 6, why would you want to do that? You do the Slack. But anyway, topic for another time. We'll go to right-click, IP version 4, and we'll set up a new scope. It's really strange how Microsoft does this, but this has been around for ages, since 2000, maybe even before. So I'll give it a scope name. It doesn't really matter what name you give it, but we'll call it Sarawak. This is important for people, so we know what we're doing. We can identify. So we're going to do the IP address range of 10.10.151. 151 to 200. So that's around about 50 IP addresses that we're going to be able to give out. Now we should change the subnet mask, not leave it as default. So we'll do 255. So it's now it's a classless IP address range. You can change it that way too by clicking up and down, but that'll be fine. See, that's good. 24 is the length of the subnet mask. The exclusions, we're going to mention that these addresses will not be given out to anyone through DHCP means. It's usually we're going to configure these IP addresses statically. So these IP addresses are never given out at all through DHCP. Even though it's in the scope, we're not going to give it out through DHCP. We can do it and we can give it out another way. The subnet delay, so if you've got 2 DHCP servers and you want one as a backup, then you can say, look, the backup server, just delay it by 10 seconds or 10 milliseconds, whatever. So if the other one breaks down, then at least it'll wait to make sure the other DHCP server is not operational. If it's operational, it will then offer, but the workstations will grab the first offer, usually always. But if that first server is down, the second server will be able to offer DHCP service. But we're going to leave that blank for now. Later on, we'll talk about the duration. Just a bit of a hint, if you're configuring DHCP server at like Starbucks and McDonald's where people are accessing, getting wireless internet, you're going to have it like within maybe an hour. But if you've got a workstation that's there forever, you can lease it for like 365 days. If you leave it at default, it's 8 days. All right, we'll configure these options. Yes, we want to configure the DNS server. Oh, sorry, we've got to do the default gateway first. So if we want to access the internet on other networks, we'll default for everything else. I think that should be okay. Yes, we want to activate it. Great, perfect. So that's working straight away on the ground. You might see an exclamation mark there. You can just refresh here. Just refresh that a couple of times and hopefully that will eventually start working. But what we'll need to do is we'll need to add a server option. So the scope options here, there's a DNS name, domain name. We want to change that to, click that. We're going to change that to serveroption.com. That's the server name. Okay, great. So that's task 1 and 2 out of the way, nice and easy. Now 3 is we're going to configure the client to use DHCP and then to get those IP addresses automatically. But I'm just waiting for this to go green. Yeah, that's good now. It might take a while for it to activate, but we want that green tick. It means it will now be okay to deploy those IP addresses. So now let's go over to Windows Client 2, I believe. Yep, double click, we're going to jump into there. And we should probably already have an IP address, or maybe not. Let's go, let's do a command. We should probably already have this by now. We'll do an IP config all. We want to do the /all. Yeah, it looks like it's good. It looks like it's, no, actually, no, it's not good. No, it's not good at all because this has a static IP address. We don't want that. So let's go and right click here, open network and sharing. We're going to ask to get this IP configuration automatically. double click. See that it's been statically assigned. I'm going to click obtain address automatically and DNS as well. Click OK. Click OK. And if this doesn't work, I'll have to do some troubleshooting, but it should be okay. Yes, it is. And how do I know? Because I've got DHCP enabled, whereas above it wasn't. DHCP was not available. It tells us the lease obtained, the lease expired, that's 8 days. It's given us the DNS server here. And also you can see that the DNS server name has been added there. And I've done this just by configuring the DHCP server as you saw before. And we can see that the IP address is in that range that we're selecting. Should be between 151 and 195. If we installed another Windows machine or another device that will get an IP address, it will increment up 152, 53, 54 until we reach our limit. Alright, so just remember that IP address, maybe put that in a notepad file. I'm going to get my notepad. See there? I just like to have a little bit of a notepad running there. It's handy to, you can write on a piece of paper if you want to, but now, so that's task 3 out of the way. Task 4 is saying, well, let's configure a lease as a reservation, and then we can test the configuration. So what we'll go now over to, we'll go back and change the reservation. So now at the moment it's 8 days. And say, for example, just say that you want to reserve an IP address for someone. You know, think of it like this: you go to a restaurant, and the restaurant has 12 tables, and this restaurant's really fancy. It's amazing. People have to book in advance. You can ring them up and say, "Look, you know what? A desk. I want a table right next to the fireplace or next to the window, looking at the Eiffel Tower or the Sydney Opera House, whatever." And you book it, you pay them in advance. No, so when someone else walks into that restaurant, they cannot take that table. You've already booked it and you've paid for it already. So we can do that with the IP addresses as well. All right, so now let's jump back over to server 1. And you'll notice there's address leases there. Oh, by the way, address leases, we can see our lease there already. So that's good. That's how we know that it's worked, that our device has got an IP address already. Now, I want to create a reservation just for this Windows 10 machine. So it will always get this IP address that I'm going to configure now. So right-click reservations over here. I'm going to click on new reservation, and I'm going to call it. I'm not sure if it really matters the reservation name. We'll just put Windows 10 Client 102 reservation, and we're going to give it an address of 155. This address must be within our scope. It can't be outside. If it is, we'll get an error. Won't let us. MAC address, we can put the MAC address for that particular Windows 10 machine, so it will always get it. I'm just going to double check if that's something we should do in this example. Yes, we actually, I made a little bit of a oversight here. We have to get that physical address. We have to copy that. So I'll get my little notepad out. So it's not the IP address it wants. It's going to reserve it just for this MAC address, physical address. Now just beware that this does work well, but don't do this as a security procedure. If you think that you can just assign certain things via the MAC address, MAC addresses can be really easily spoofed by attackers. Hackers can do this really easily. So we do it, but not as a security measure. We just want to give that IP address to that machine. And I think that should just about be it. Perfect. Yep, we'll add that. and close. So we'll go back to reservations, and that's fine. It should be good to go now. We'll go back to our Windows 10 machine. Now, here's a trick. If I do ipconfig all, I'm still going to get the old settings. And the reason why is because I've got a lease here. Nothing will change unless we wait 8 days. Nothing's going to change. It'll stay the same. It's happy with it. It's communicating. It's not looking for a new IP address. It's not shouting out again. So we need to force it. We need to force it to release the IP address. Yep. Oops, sorry. Well, you have to spell it properly. And that's going to release it. It doesn't have an IP address anymore. And we need to do renew. Some people just do renew and they don't release it. Some people just release, and if you do it ipconfig/release and then ipconfig/renew, if you do it, it's going to work all the time. So what address, what IP address should we be getting? We should be getting 1.5. So this is working. This is good. Let's just do an ipconfig all. Yeah, we're getting the whole lot. Okay, the DNS servers, we're getting the server name, the default gateway. This exercise has been successful. All right, so I'm going to complete the video now. I'm going to shut exercise 1 video recording. Please come back because I'm going to do exercise 2 immediately. All right, so I really hope that you enjoyed this and you've learned a few things. I'll see you shortly for the next exercise 2.